thank you to all of you for joining 4th Prosperity Forum, and thanks again to all our supporters and partners. So I think already we have heard a lot about the importance of tax reform. And Syed has provided you a background of how this PIDE-PRIME Tax Reforms Commission was constituted. Prime requested then Vice Chancellor Dr. Nadeemul Haq to collaborate, and he immediately agreed to the proposal and set up this team, which comprises amongst himself, other than himself, Mr. Shahid Kardar, who has been here. I think he had to leave to Lahore because of the smog situation. He had to reach earlier. Syed Shabar Zaidi, former chairman, FBR, Dr. Ikramul Haq, Dr. Manzoor Ahmed, I think who is here, Dr. Nasir Iqbal from PIDE, Mahmood Khalid is sitting here, Dr. Khalil Ahmed is also here, and distinguished fellow at Prime. So this was the commission which was set up by these two institutions, and we had about 12 meetings, mostly online, over the course of last few months, and discussed quite a bit of detail in like what should be the outline of tax reform proposal. We looked at essentially 4 major taxes: the income tax, the sales tax, the customs tariffs, FED, and then we thought that we should not only give proposals, but we also should do an empirical analysis, like implications of these proposals if implemented for growth and revenue implications. And I think this is what makes this report stand out from, may I humbly suggest, all other reports which have been previously published. First of all, those reports were published under directly the guidance of the government, which makes those reports, I would say, not very independent. And this is coming out of 2 independent, institutes and teams. Although PIDE, of course, is a government think tank, but they still had their, independent thought and policy process. And secondly, this combination of not just economic theory, but also policy practice, which was part of this commission, and also the best legal background or the legal knowledge on the taxation law was available. So I think the combination of economic theory, the legal background, and also the empirical research was provided to the commission. And I again thank and acknowledge Dr. Mahmood Khalid and Dr. Nasir Iqbal for leading this side from PIDE. I will just present you the outline of these proposals. I will not go into details just to manage the time. You have everything here. And this resonates pretty much what we have been hearing this morning, particularly what Alex outlined in the case of Georgia. And we have also taken, by the way, we have taken an account of all like the current tax reform proposals which are available in Pakistan. We have taken and studied all of them, and so we try to create a consensus here. And I've already proposed to Pakistan Business Council. The CEO of Business Council was here this morning, that in their upcoming economic dialogue, they should endorse this proposal. And I believe that if the thought leadership and business leadership of the country can combine, then political leadership has to listen. Right? So we cannot just go on just with the transaction-based approaches, which has been the case, as Mr. Raoji also highlighted. And this is how the report is structured. Essentially, we are not saying that the key purpose of any tax reforms is just tax revenue collection enhancement. This may be the result of it, but not the end objective. So this is the vision, that we want a citizen-friendly, transparent, stable and predictable tax regime in the country, aided by simplification, harmonization and automation. Again, what is happening right now in Pakistan, there's a lot of talk about tax reforms, and shortly we'll be joined by Minister of Revenue, Mr. Ali Pervez Malik. Due to the IMF delegation, of course, he could not join earlier. And the focus of the discussion in these, the reforms is really administrative side, whereas we are talking about policy, which is missing. There is no tax policy in Pakistan, believe me. There is only tax measure and tax targets. So we have a tax target, and then we have tax measures to achieve those targets. There is no policy. And PIDE-PRIME Reforms Commission has proposed a tax policy, which, in our opinion, is workable. And as a result, we have also heard a case study this morning from the business sector, from one sector, construction sector, how it affects negatively growth and investment. And it leads to all kind of malpractices, tax evasion. I think we had an excellent story this morning. As human behavior, we are forced to do this, right? I think, repeating Alex's words, essentially human nature is not criminal in nature, but due to the kind of the complicated legal structure, they are forced to evade the structure. And particularly when we created this filer non-filer distinction, it creates all sorts of problems, and then we have revenue shortfalls. And also a lot of these discussions in which local academia, local private sector are not part of the deliberation. They are maybe led by international donors, and that's also part of the problem. So, first of all, we looked at the custom tariff reforms, and the bottom line of the customs tariff system in Pakistan has been an import substitution, number one, and number two, the revenue maximization. These are the two major sort of objectives of the import of the custom tariff regime. Dr. Manzoor led that component in the Tax Reforms Commission, and of course he is the best expert here. I'm not going to say a lot on that subject. So basically what we presented, that we have to come out from this thinking of dependency on the custom tariff and import taxation, broadly defined as tax revenue measure. Remember what Alex presented this morning. Georgia, 140%. Right? So that was very huge, 140%. Ours is about 60% dependence on the export taxation. Still not that bad. I mean, I cannot imagine 140%, but here you are. And it is brought down to less than 5% now in case of Georgia, and it happens all over different countries. So that is wrong, and we want to change it. And so first of all, the first step which we have proposed in this is that we have to abolish the additional custom duties, regulatory duties, and advanced taxes which we collect at the level of imports. And then we have to come up with a simplified customs tariff. This is still not flat, by the way, because we want to create a consensus. So we recognize that although ideally we should go towards that direction, but maybe we can take first step by making the slab structure more simplified and more transparent. And also bringing custom duty at par with regional economies. Remember, we heard the case study. It is now 1.5% in case of Georgia. Okay, ours is 10%. It has been reduced. We recognize that, but because of other additional duties and taxation, the heavy custom duties is still there. Very importantly, we are saying same custom duties or tariff irrespective of the end user. We have a very complicated tariff structure in which we impose different duties depending on a different use and different purpose, like commercial importer, industrial importer, and then are we importing a product for end use or for re-export, for production, all have different rates. And we are suggesting it should be one single rate. Then again, general sales tax, effectively we don't have across the economy, if you look at the current outreach, about 4 million commercial and industrial enterprises, we know them. They are recognized, they are part of the economy, and there's hardly 100,000 companies or enterprises are with them, are with the system. And then we have this lack of harmony between provincial government and the federal government. Have been hearing about harmonization for a long time. It has not happened. So it needs to happen. That the businesses should be paying same rate of the VAT or GST across the federal and the provincial domains. And then a lot of exemptions. We are suggesting no more exemptions, and we can follow the EU standards there. So the reforms is harmonized and equalized VAT mode across goods and services and across provinces, number 2. And this is very important. Right now, the rate is about 18%, and we are saying that gradually it should be brought down to 10%. It has to be brought down to 10%, and we'll hear from Mahmood how this reduction has helped in formalizing the economy and in increasing the revenue in the GST mode. And then we can follow we should follow EU standards and zero rated of GST VAT on the domestic supply of items. We are also saying that to encourage industrial production, the import of plant and machinery, industrial raw materials and intermediate goods to be zero rated. And then there's specific suggestions here that by the end of years 5, GST on chapters 24 to 97 of custom tariff should be gradually zero rated on imports. And then income tax, extremely important. We have set our income tax to actually as an incentive to not to corporatize. We don't have just a corporate tax, but we have all kind of like super tax imposed on the companies. Earning higher profit is actually penalized, and we are saying we should withdraw all kind of additional, government should withdraw all kind of additional taxes like super tax on the income, including the individuals. The effective tax rate on large companies have gone beyond 50% of their income. So you cannot do any business in such an environment. And then our income tax regime is also quite complex because it has actually gone into a withholding regime. The majority of taxation now collects under the withholding regime and presumptive mode, which needs to be changed. So again, same rate of taxation on same level of income, irrespective of sources. Currently, this is not the case. We have different income tax rates applicable on different sources of income, which creates evasion, which creates complication, and give rise to corruption. The Commission is still in favor of income tax slab rationalization for progressivity, and also change in the income tax exemption threshold. And according to the Commission, the effective tax rates on personal income tax should be 5% higher than the corporate income tax rate. And this is a very important, all these taxes have been imposed last few years. We are saying that these taxes, additional like rental income tax, capital value tax and foreign assets, the foreigners, the overseas Pakistanis have to pay taxes on the properties which they own outside Pakistan, which is wrong. Super tax, turnover tax, intercorporate dividend, all should be abolished. Again, similar regime for the corporate income tax has been proposed here. The rate we are proposing is 25% to make it regionally competitive, and withdrawal of the additional taxes which are currently imposed on the corporate income. Federal excise duty, very important subject, and a lot of discussion is happening. The Commission is in favor of high excise rate on set of products like tobacco and additive beverages. But I personally recognize that this has already entered into a prohibitive range of the Laffer curve, as also acknowledged recently by Chairman FBR, that government has increased the rates of FAT on these products, and it has led to more informalization, more informal economy, which is again causing the problem. So we need to look at it more deeply. We are also have proposed that withholding taxation regime should be changed to an advanced income tax regime, so this should not be a final tax. but it should be calculated towards the final tax liability. Ultimately, there are about, I think, 80 or so withholding taxes, and we are saying we need to abolish all of these except these four, which is the payroll, interest, dividends to non-residents. Except these items, all withholding taxes, particularly on transactions, should be withdrawn. And there are also revenue non-spinners which we should be withdrawing. We have also proposed specific changes in the capital gains tax reform, which is not helping the capital formation in the country. And so the capital gain should be further aligned with the capital formation, which is very important for investment and the growth in the private sector. Federal income, the agriculture income tax, we are saying that make it a part of the federal income tax code, and the exemption should be withdrawn. And then should be other incentives for corporate farming.